Hello, in this video I will show you an effect such as vertical and horizontal scroll and how it is used. It is needed to present, for example, your prototype on a mobile device, and at the same time show how it will actually look, that is, as close to reality as possible. Each mobile device has its own height and width, and in order to show those elements that will be hidden and won't fit on the mobile device's screen, you add a property such as horizontal or vertical scroll without adding a scroll. As you can see, I am clicking, and if I opened it on a mobile phone and tapped with my finger, you wouldn't see anything. Nothing would scroll down, and to simply understand the logic of how scrolling is created, I will now demonstrate this to you with a real example, but in a very simplified form. I create several objects, then duplicate them a few times, and for example, I end up with 5 squares. Then I press Shift, and to create an auto layout, I add spacing between them of 12 on the sides and 32 pixels, and I will make the color white to make it more contrasting so that our squares, the color of the squares, is visible. I will also change it now to make it more visible. Let it be, for example, red, and then let's assume that the width of our screen is only 320 pixels, which is the smallest phone. The next thing I do, I select all the squares again and set the auto layout. Then where the width is, I choose fill container so that our squares occupy all the free space in the container, geeky, and for our main block. I set the width to 320 pixels. As you can see, not all the squares fit, so I click on them and can press clip content right here. But I will do it differently. I will select the main container with the soft layout, that is, where the background is, and press together, clip container on it. Thus, we have created an effect that is very often used on the phone. When one of the elements doesn't fit within the screen width, it slightly peeks out from the screen, thereby letting the user know that scrolling might be available here. Next, I go into the prototype and flow starting point. I add it here so that I don't have to press and go into presentation mode every time, meaning I don't have to watch the presentation every time, which takes a long time to load. By clicking, we see that if I press the button now, nothing will happen. But if I add for these squares, meaning I select the container specifically with squares auto layout and add a property like overflow horizontal, reload it again, you'll see that now everything scrolls just perfectly. You can do the same for vertical scrolling. Let's change the direction for the auto layout. Now it is vertical. Press Hack C and accordingly. Press Hack here as well. Let's return to our squares. For the height, we will now choose fill container and adjust the height to achieve the vertical scroll effect. Now I will change the height to some random 350 pixels, but you can see that the square is positioned incorrectly. This is because the alignment in the auto layout is not quite correct. I select the squares and set the alignment to the top and center. I go into the prototype and load the starting point. You see, right now nothing is happening, but if you select the squares and add not a horizontal overflow but a vertical one, then everything will work just perfectly. Here, I just wanted to show you the general logic of how scrolling works because it's not always fully clear. Understandably not fully clear. Obviously, try to create scrolling specifically for components within the container. That is, for example, with this screen, I would create scrolling not for the main container where everything is located, but rather I would gather all the elements inside the container into one auto layout and then apply the overflow here. Now I'll show you how this will look. Let's reduce it to the screen of the smallest phone. Then I select the auto layout that I just created, and using the control button, I stretch it to the maximum height of the screen. So now it fits on the screen, but everything else is cropped. And by selecting precisely the auto layout that I made specifically for those component elements is inside. I go into the prototype and select vertical for overflow. And if I load it now, my auto layout is preserved perfectly, but it scrolls vertically. If we want to keep our bottom padding at 20 pixels, we will have to click clip content for our container with elements and accordingly show how it will look with padding inside. That's all from me. I hope this video was helpful to you because I've seen questions multiple times about how vertical and horizontal scroll work. Leave your questions in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and give it a thumbs up. And, as always, the most useful links will be in the description below the video.